What are your thoughts about the new Golden State Warriors lineup? I think Dennis Schroder is going to fit as a glove. It's going to solve a lot of the problems, a lot of the gaps that D'Anthony Melton left when he got injured. So I believe that Stephen Curry will try keeping Draymond Green as a five and insisting on Jonathan Kuminga. We will see if that works. There's also the option that Draymond Green could come out of the bench. Today, I'm going to bring to you why I think there's one last piece the Warriors needs to work with. And it's the center position, which we have been saying for multiple seasons. The size is a problem that the Warriors face right now. We have won with a small lineup. We have won games. We have won the 2022 title. In fact, that not that small because Kevin Looney played a big role, especially in the playoffs and the finals of that year. But it's a possibility, even though I think if the Warriors make this one trade, it would put us as a real title contender. So take a look on this article. It's aligned with what it came a few days ago, and he brought up and gave me the idea of recording this today because it's exactly in line with my thoughts. The Warriors have one issue to address: the size, the center. We have Trace Jackson, we have Kevin Looney, but I think is one guy, Nikola Vucevic, would make the difference for us. I'm going to put some highlights of his game, why I comment and why I think he would be a great fit right now, right? The Chicago Bulls is in the playing zone right now. They mainly relying on Nikola Vucevic and Zach LaVine. And I think Vucevic is a center. It is slightly taller than Kevin Looney and Trace Jackson, but it's a bigger scorer, right? He's the second top scorer for the Chicago Bulls right now. He's a 34 years old, a veteran, is slightly older than Kevin Looney, but he can shoot threes. He can play with the pick and roll. He's a great rebounder as well. So we're going to make a comparison between him and Looney later, and you will see how his stats will change the games. And he opens a door for the Warriors because not just we put a body there, a center that is strong, that has size, but we also create another score option, which is different from what we have, right? And I think that's the big thing for the Warriors right now. Let's take a look on the Vucevic's salary, how we fit him to the Warriors, how that trade could happen, and how the Warriors could convince the Chicago Bulls, which I believe is willing to trade him right now, but how we could make that happen. And I think if we have a lineup that would be Curry, Draymond Green, Andrew Wiggins, Dennis Schroder, and Vucevic, that would be a very powerful one. A lot of score power. All these players that I mentioned, they're capable of putting above 15 points, 20 points. So it would put the Warriors as a real title contender. That's the one missing piece. You can see like defending there in the highlights and creating the space. So I think Vucevic would be a big piece for us. And why him, right? Let's talk also later about Miles Turner, which has been a name in the past that the Warriors insisted, but I think he's a better option. So take a look at his salary right now. He has a 2 years contract. He's making 20 millions this season, and he's going to make 21.4 last one. So it's a big salary, but I think it's worth for the score power that he's providing for the Warriors, the rebounds, and the blocks, the defense as well, right? So I think it's manageable, but we're going to see how the Warriors could fit this. Remember, we are very close to the apron, and we cannot actually just add this. We're going to need to make some trades where we send the equivalent or close to that to Chicago, right? So look at this comparison. Those are the numbers for this season between Looney and Vucevic, right? So minutes per game, obviously Vucevic is playing more. He's a starter for Chicago Bulls. He's the bigger role there, but he's scoring over 21 points. 21 points, 9 rebounds per game. He's basically doing better in every single thing. Look, reality is if you look for rebounds, for example, Looney has a big play compared to the minutes that he plays, right? But he's been basically the one doing that for the Warriors. The Warriors is one of the best teams rebounding right now. So I think if you give that role to Vucevic with that amount of minutes, he's gonna shine as well, right? So you can see that his 3-point percentage, which is a big thing for the Warriors, almost 50%, 47%. So he would play even a role where we can have that spacing on the floor. He's gonna become a threat. How many times you see Looney, Trace Jackson, Green when he's playing as a 5, actually making that space? And that's why I think Vucevic would play an amazing role at game. Now, look, let's compare with Miles Turner, right? I think it's another name that the Warriors have been discussing for a while. But if you look at the numbers, he's younger. On that sense, I get it. It would make more sense for the Warriors. You can invest that on a longer term. But then you have a risk. First of all, he just has 1 year this season salary. So you could lose this guy soon and would have to deal with that problem again. And you get rid of some assets and you don't get them back. You get that space though, but I don't think it's a good idea. The second one, and you look at the numbers, playing almost the same amount of minutes, you can see that Vucevic is delivering a lot more. I think actually Vucevic is having one of the best seasons of his career. He found like the way of playing with Chicago, and I think he could fit that for the Warriors as well, especially because he's a great three-point shooter, which is something that you can add in the Warriors game on top of the size and everything else. Look at the salary cap. So I want to show you the salary cap for the Warriors so we can discuss on how that actually trade would make sense and how we would fit. And there's so many different ways the Warriors could explore that right now, right? So if you think the Warriors, for example, one thing that I don't like, but Steve Kerr hasn't been playing much Kyle Anderson. So you could actually put that in the mix. You have a 8.7 million salary. Remember, Vucevic has a 20 million salary for this season. We basically need to match that. So you could do a combination of Kyle Anderson, Kevin Looney, Gary Payton, and then get some extra asset. Or you could do Kevin Looney, Gary Payton, Moses Moody, or Kyle Anderson, Gary Payton, Moses Moody, or don't put Moody and put Brandon Porzingis. So the Warriors could play with a few assets there. You probably would get rid of three of them, three players on the second unit, unless the Warriors would be willing to put Wiggins. But then I would say that this whole trade doesn't make sense for me. I keep saying here, I'm one guy that defends Wiggins despite all the criticism that he received in the last 2 seasons. I think he's a potential he shines when he's not under pressure, meaning he's not that second scorer or he needs to be a ball handler. When you have like the opponents have to focus on something else, then all his skill sets show up. So I want to have Wiggins there as part of this. So not putting Wiggins on that, we know we're not going to trade Draymond Green. We're obviously not talking about Curry or Schroder that just came. So start looking at the second unit. So you need to make a combination of salaries to reach that 20 million. And that essentially you're going to put the Warriors sending 3 assets, 3 players for Chicago. But I think it makes sense. So all those combinations are possible when you think from Gary Payton, Buddy Hield, Kyle Anderson, Kevin Looney, Jonathan Kuminga, which I don't think the Warriors would do either, Moses Moody and Brandon Porzingis, all or even Lean Waters. You could do a combination with 3 here and get to that 20 million, maybe surpass a little bit and get another asset from the Chicago Bulls as well. But it's something that I hope that Joe Lacob and Mike Dunleavy Jr. are exploring as well. I think it's overdue for the Warriors to see a great center, a center that can score and that adds a new flavor for our rotation, for our offense system as well. So this is the schedule for the Warriors. We're going to know more about Dennis Schroder as a player for the Warriors Thursday night against the Memphis Grizzlies in Memphis. It's important to start already paying attention on this because one of the comments that Mike Dunleavy Jr. did is that he wants to see how Schroder's fit in the Warriors rotation before making another trade. So I think we might expect a couple of weeks. Remember, basically the trade deadline just opened. It goes into February. So we're going to see the Warriors exploring this option a few weeks before making another decision. And I'm excited to see Schroder taking the heavy lift of Stephen Curry, of handling that ball all the time, creating all the plays, and also releasing a little bit of Brandon Porzingis, which I think is under fire right now. It's getting a lot of pressures off the Warriors fans and snowballing the whole thing. So I think the Warriors are in the right path, but I want to see them doing this final move, which I believe adds the cherry on top of the cake and would make the Warriors a real title contender. I want to know what you think. Don't forget to subscribe. Leave in the comments if you like that trade or not, or what would you do if you were in the Warriors board and you could decide the future of the organization. Have a great day and bye.